The Little Mermaid's Gift. Once upon a time, far beneath the sparkling waves of the deep blue ocean, there existed a magical kingdom that most people never knew about. It was a world of shimmering coral castles, gardens filled with sea flowers that swayed in the gentle currents, and creatures of every color imaginable. Schools of rainbow fish darted between towering kelp forests, sea turtles glided peacefully through crystal-clear water, and dolphins sang songs that echoed through the underwater valleys. This beautiful kingdom was ruled by a wise and kind sea king who loved his people and his family with all his heart. The sea king had 6 daughters, and each one was special in her own way. They were mermaids with long, flowing hair and shimmering tails that caught the light like precious jewels. The oldest daughter had a tail of deep emerald green and loved to study ancient books. The second had a tail of sapphire blue and enjoyed painting pictures on smooth stones. The third, fourth, and fifth daughters each had their own interests and talents, filling the palace with music, laughter, and joy. But the youngest daughter, whose name was Marina, was perhaps the most curious of them all. She had a tail that shimmered like pearls in moonlight, hair the color of seaweed kissed by sunlight, and eyes as blue as the deepest part of the ocean. More than anything else in the world, Marina loved to explore. She would swim to the farthest reaches of the kingdom, discovering hidden caves, making friends with shy sea creatures, and collecting beautiful treasures that had fallen from the world above. You see, Marina was fascinated by the human world. While her sisters were content to stay in the ocean, swimming and playing, and living their mermaid lives, Marina would often float up to the surface when no one was watching and gaze at the distant shore. She would see the lights of villages twinkling in the evening, watch birds soaring through the air on wings she wished she had, and wonder what it would be like to walk on 2 legs instead of swimming with a tail. Her grandmother, an elderly mermaid with silver hair and a tail that sparkled like stars, would tell her stories about the world above. When a mermaid turns 15, her grandmother would say with a gentle smile, she is allowed to swim to the surface and see the human world for herself. Each of your sisters has had their turn, and soon, dear Marina will be yours. Marina counted the days until her 15th birthday with excitement bubbling in her heart like sea foam. She listened eagerly as each of her older sisters returned from their first trips to the surface, sharing what they had seen. But somehow, none of their descriptions satisfied the deep longing in Marina's heart. She felt certain that when her turn came, she would discover something wonderful, something that would change everything. Finally, the day arrived. On the evening of her 15th birthday, as the sun began to set and paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, Marina's father gave her permission to swim to the surface. With her heart beating fast with anticipation, Marina rose up through the water, higher and higher, until her head broke through the waves and she took her first breath of the warm evening air. The world above was even more beautiful than she had imagined. The sky was vast and endless, stretching out in every direction. The clouds looked like soft pillows floating in an ocean of air. And there, not far from where she floated, was a magnificent ship with white sails billowing in the breeze and music drifting across the water. Marina swam closer, careful to stay hidden behind the waves, and watched as people danced on the deck of the ship. They were celebrating something, and their laughter mixed with the sound of violins and flutes. Among all the people, one person caught Marina's attention immediately, a young prince with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He moved through the crowd with grace, speaking warmly to everyone, and Marina could see that the people around him genuinely loved and respected him. She watched him for a long time, fascinated not just by how he looked, but by the kindness she could see in everything he did. When a small child on the ship stumbled, the prince knelt down to help him up and make him laugh. When the musicians grew tired, he thanked them with sincere appreciation. Marina had never seen anyone quite like him, and something stirred in her heart, a feeling she had never experienced before. Suddenly, the sky darkened. Storm clouds rolled in with frightening speed, and the gentle waves became angry and tall. Rain began to pour down, and lightning cracked across the sky. The ship rocked violently, and Marina watched in horror as a huge wave crashed over the deck, sweeping the prince into the churning water. Without thinking about her own safety, Marina dove beneath the waves and swam as fast as her tail could carry her. She found the prince sinking into the dark water, unconscious and unable to swim. With all her strength, She wrapped her arms around him and pulled him up to the surface, holding his head above the water as she swam toward the distant shore. It took all night, but Marina finally reached a quiet beach as the sun began to rise. She gently laid the prince on the sand, making sure he was breathing, and then she sat beside him, brushing the wet hair from his forehead. She stayed with him until she heard voices approaching, people from a nearby temple who had come to walk on the beach in the morning. Knowing she couldn't let them see her, Marina quickly slipped back into the water and hid behind a large rock, watching from a distance. A young woman from the temple found the prince and called for help. Marina watched as they carefully carried him away, and even though her heart ached to stay with him, she knew she had to return to her ocean home. But as she swam back down to the underwater kingdom, everything felt different. The coral gardens didn't seem as colorful. The palace felt too quiet, and her heart felt full of a longing that wouldn't go away. Days turned into weeks, and Marina couldn't stop thinking about the prince. She would swim to the surface every evening and watch the palace where he lived, perched on a cliff overlooking the sea. She saw him walking in the gardens, looking out at the ocean as if he were searching for something or someone. And Marina began to realize something important. She didn't just want to see the human world anymore. She wanted to be part of it. She wanted to know the prince, to talk with him, to share in his life. But there was a problem that seemed impossible to solve. Marina was a mermaid, and he was a human. She lived in the ocean, and he lived on land. They belonged to two completely different worlds, and there seemed to be no way to bridge the distance between them. One day, when her sadness had grown too heavy to carry alone, Marina swam to the darkest, most remote part of the ocean, where the water was cold and the light barely reached. There, in a cave surrounded by strange, glowing plants, lived the sea witch. The sea witch was not evil, exactly, but she was mysterious and powerful, and she always asked for something in return for her magic. "I know why you've come," the sea witch said in a voice like waves against rocks. "You want to become human, so you can be with the prince you saved." Marina nodded, her heart pounding. "Is it possible?" she asked quietly. The sea witch studied her with ancient, knowing eyes. "It is possible," she said slowly. "I can give you a potion that will transform your tail into legs. You'll be able to walk on land, dance, and live among humans. But my magic comes with a price, and it's one you must understand fully before you agree." "What price?" Marina asked, though part of her already knew it would be difficult. "You must give me your voice," the sea witch said. "You'll be able to walk and dance and live in the human world, but you'll never be able to speak again. You won't be able to tell the prince who you are, or that you were the one who saved him. And there's more. If the prince marries someone else, if he doesn't give you his true love, you can never return to being a mermaid. You'll turn into sea foam on the morning after his wedding and cease to exist." Marina felt her heart sink. Her voice was precious to her. It was how she sang the songs she loved, how she talked with her sisters, how she shared her thoughts and feelings. Giving it up would mean losing a part of herself. And the risk was enormous. She might lose everything: her voice, her home, her family, even her very existence. But as she thought about the prince, about his kindness and gentle spirit, about the way he had looked out at the ocean as if searching for her, Marina realized something profound. Love wasn't about what you could gain. It was about what you were willing to give. Real love meant being willing to sacrifice for someone else's happiness, even if it cost you dearly. And Marina loved the prince enough to take that risk. "I'll do it," she said quietly but firmly. "I'll give you my voice." The sea witch mixed a potion that glowed with an eerie light and handed it to Marina in a small shell. "Drink this when you reach the shore," she said. "Remember, there is no going back once the transformation is complete." Marina nodded and swam toward the surface, the potion clutched carefully in her hands. As she rose through the water, she passed by her home one last time. She saw her sisters swimming together in the distance, laughing and playing. She saw the palace where she had grown up, with its gardens and towers and all the familiar places she loved. Tears mixed with the seawater on her cheeks, but she kept swimming upward, her heart set on her choice. When she reached the beach near the prince's palace, Marina pulled herself onto the sand and drank the potion. Immediately, a strange sensation swept through her body. It wasn't painful, exactly, but it was intense and overwhelming. Her beautiful tail shimmered and then split, transforming into 2 legs. She stood up shakily, feeling the sand beneath her feet for the first time, and took her first uncertain steps on land. The next morning, the prince was walking along the beach when he found Marina sitting on the sand, wrapped in seaweed like a cloak. He approached her with concern and kindness in his eyes. "Are you all right?" he asked. "Where did you come from?" Marina opened her mouth to answer, but no sound came out. She had given her voice to the sea witch, and now she could only look at him with her expressive blue eyes and hope he would understand. The prince, being kind-hearted, didn't turn away. Instead, he offered her his hand and said, "You seem lost and alone. Please, come with me to the palace. We'll take care of you." And so Marina came to live in the prince's palace. She couldn't tell him her name or her story, but she found other ways to communicate, through gestures, through her expressions, and through her actions. She learned to walk gracefully on her new legs, though every step felt strange at first. She learned the customs of the human world, how to eat at a proper table, how to curtsy, how to move through the palace halls. But more importantly, she found ways to show the prince who she really was inside. When he looked sad, she would sit beside him quietly, offering comfort through her presence. When he walked in the gardens, she would walk with him, enjoying the flowers and the birdsong. When there were celebrations at the palace, she would dance with such grace and joy that everyone stopped to watch, amazed by the mysterious girl who couldn't speak, but whose every movement seemed to tell a story. The prince grew fond of Marina. He appreciated her gentle spirit and the way she seemed to understand him without words. They spent hours together, and he would talk to her about his thoughts and dreams, finding comfort in her attentive listening. But he often spoke about the person who had saved him from the storm, a young woman he had seen only briefly before he lost consciousness, someone he believed had come from the temple. Marina's heart ached every time he mentioned this, knowing that she was the one who had saved him but unable to tell him the truth. She had sacrificed her voice, and now she had to watch as he searched for someone who didn't exist while she stood right beside him. Weeks passed, and then months. Marina's father, the Sea King, worried about his youngest daughter who had disappeared. Her sisters searched the ocean for her, their hearts heavy with concern. Her grandmother wept, wondering if Marina was safe. But Marina stayed in the palace, holding on to hope that somehow, even without words, the prince would see the truth of her love and recognize her for who she was. Then one day, the prince received a visit from a princess from a neighboring kingdom. She was kind and beautiful, and when the prince's advisor suggested he should marry and produce an heir to the throne, the prince agreed to consider her. He didn't love her the way Marina loved him, but he felt he had a duty to his people, and the princess seemed like a good person. Marina's heart broke as she watched the wedding preparations begin. She knew what this meant. According to the sea witch's warning, on the morning after the prince married someone else, she would turn into sea foam and disappear forever. She had given everything, her voice, her home, her family, her very existence, for love, and it seemed that it hadn't been enough. On the night before the wedding, Marina's sisters appeared in the water near the shore. They had made their own sacrifice, cutting off their beautiful long hair to trade with the sea witch for a magical knife. They called to Marina from the waves, and she came to meet them, tears streaming down her face. "Take this knife," they told her urgently. "Before the sun rises, you must use it to make a choice. If you take the knife and return to the ocean with us, you can become a mermaid again and live out your life in the sea. But you must choose quickly before it's too late." Marina held the knife in her trembling hands and looked back at the palace where the prince slept, preparing for his wedding day. She thought about everything she had given up, her voice, her home, her family. She thought about how much it had cost her to love him, and she thought about what love really meant. Love, she realized, wasn't about getting something in return. Love wasn't about making someone choose you or forcing them to see you the way you wanted to be seen. Real love meant wanting the other person to be happy, even if their happiness didn't include you. Real love meant sacrificing without expectation, giving without demanding, and caring more about someone else's joy than your own. Marina looked at the knife in her hands and then looked at her sisters' hopeful faces. She loved them too. She loved her family and her ocean home. But she also loved the prince enough to let him have the life he wanted, even if it meant she wouldn't be part of it. She loved him enough to let him go. With a gentle smile, Marina threw the knife far into the ocean and shook her head at her sisters. She couldn't speak, but her choice spoke louder than words ever could. She was choosing love, the kind of love that sacrifices everything and asks for nothing in return. As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, something miraculous happened. Instead of dissolving into sea foam as the sea which had warned, Marina felt herself becoming lighter and lighter. She rose up into the air, and she realized that her form was changing once again, not into sea foam, but into something beautiful and eternal. She was becoming a daughter of the air, a spirit who brings comfort to those who suffer and hope to those who despair. Other spirits surrounded her, welcoming her with joy. "Because you loved so purely," they told her. "Because you sacrificed without bitterness and gave without expectation, you have earned a soul and eternal life. Your love was so true that it transformed you into something even more beautiful than you were before." From her place in the air, Marina watched the prince's wedding. She saw him marry the princess, and she saw that they were kind to each other and would build a good life together. And instead of feeling sadness, Marina felt peace. Her sacrifice had been an act of pure love, and that love had transformed her in ways she never could have imagined. Marina spent her days bringing gentle breezes to comfort the sad, whispering hope to the discouraged, and reminding people that love, true, selfless love, is the most powerful force in all the world. She visited her father and sisters in the ocean sometimes, though they couldn't see her. She watched over the prince from afar, happy to see him living a good life. And she understood now that her sacrifice hadn't been a loss at all. It had been a gift that had opened up possibilities she never knew existed. She had learned that sacrifice shows the deepest kind of love. Not sacrifice that makes you bitter or resentful, but sacrifice that comes from a heart so full of love that giving becomes its own reward. She had learned that when we love someone truly, we want what's best for them, even when it's hard for us. And she had learned that the most beautiful transformations happen not when we hold on tightly to what we want, but when we open our hands and let love guide us wherever it may lead. And so Marina became a spirit of hope and comfort, forever changed by the love that had asked everything of her and in return had given her something far greater than she ever dreamed possible. A heart that knew the true meaning of sacrifice and the eternal peace that the Little Mermaid's gift. Once